You ever have a night where you're so broke, the only thing keeping your kids warm is a space heater and your own stubbornness? That was me not too long ago, sitting in my old rental at the edge of Meadowview, where hope feels like something other people talk about on TV. Single mom, two wild kids, job gone faster than you can say, downsizing, just me, my crochet hook, and whatever scraps I could sell online to keep food on the table. I thought I'd seen hard times. Then, one stormy night, life reminded me just how fast things can turn. Rain was hammering the windows, kids tucked in under thrift store blankets, me hunched over the kitchen table, working on a pumpkin I hoped might earn us a loaf of bread. That's when I saw him. A little boy in a too big raincoat, clinging to an old woman who looked lost. Both of them soaked to the bone. Most folks around here, they'd pull the curtain and mind their business. You know what I mean? Not me. I opened the door and called out, "Get in here before you catch your death." The boy ran in like I was the last safe place on earth. The woman, she barely knew where she was, muttering about a red mailbox and calling the boy by names that weren't his. The kid finally tells me, real soft, "My name's Oliver. This is my grandma, Betty." She gets confused sometimes. I wrapped him up in towels, gave them my last cans of soup, tried to act like this was just another Tuesday night. But really, it wasn't. 'Cause as the night wore on, Betty got worse. Trying to leave, crying for people who weren't there, burning with fever. Little Oliver just held my hand and whispered, "She was fine this morning. She pushed me on the swing. Then she didn't know me." I wanted to tell him it'd be okay, but I've been around enough pain to know you can't lie to a kid's eyes. All I could do was keep 'em close. Promise I'd look after her like she was my own. That night was long. Every time I started to doze, I'd hear Betty trying the door, lost in her own storm. I kept a cold rag on her forehead, checked on my twins sleeping down the hall, wondering how much longer we could hold on ourselves. When dawn finally broke, rain easing up, I found Betty clear-eyed for the first time. She looked at Oliver, smiled, and started to cry. "Good morning, sweetheart," she said, voice shaky but there. Oliver clung to her like he was never letting go. It felt like the whole world took a breath. She asked to call her son, Daniel. The relief in his voice when he heard her, "Man, you don't forget something like that." Half an hour later, a big black SUV pulls up outside. Daniel comes flying out, tie crooked, eyes wild, like he'd run through every hospital in the state looking for them. He barely made it inside before falling to his knees, hugging his mom and his boy, thanking me over and over. Then he really looked around, saw my busted sofa, stacks of yarn, two little kids peeking from the hallway. "You did all this for strangers?" he asked. I just shrugged. They weren't strangers last night, not when they needed help. He picked up one of my pumpkins, turned it over in his hands. "You make these?" When I nodded, he said, "I run a distribution company, home decor, handmade crafts. We need real people, real stories. Would you let me help you get your work out there?" I'll be honest, I thought it was one of those things people say just to be nice. But Daniel was different. He set up meetings, brought people in, even let me choose the colors, the name, Thread of Hope. He told me, "You're the heart." I'm just making sure people hear it beat. The next few weeks? Wild. That old forgotten shop behind the coffee place became my world. Shelves filled with my crafts. Neighbors stopping in to buy a scarf or just to talk. Betty came by most days, her memory still patchy, but her hands sure. She'd teach the local teens how to crochet, keep Oliver close. Daniel handled the business, always quick with a smile and a coffee. My kids finally had shoes that fit. I started believing in tomorrow again. I'll never forget the day this old mechanic wandered in, smelling like oil and rain. "Heard you help folks who sew," he said. I handed him a clipboard, told him to pull up a chair. "Just like that?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just like that." That's what we do. We open doors. On the anniversary of the shop, a reporter asked, "Did all this really start because someone knocked on your door in a storm?" I looked her in the eye and said, "No, it started because I opened it." Now here's what I want to know. Was I crazy for trusting strangers? Should I have looked out for just my own? Or is there something to be said for letting kindness lead, even when you're running on empty? Drop your story below. Tell me about the time you took a chance, or when somebody gave you one. Maybe that's how we change things. Maybe that's all it takes.